If I would have set up my cheap incubator right out of the box, I probably would never have chicks. My hens aren't broody and are getting less and less, so I decided I'll make my own chickens. This will not be professional advice because for me it's the first time using an incubator. Monk on the hill here. I'm living here in a small homestead in rural Bulgaria, and that's where another problem with the incubator comes in. But later to that. If you want to support me, my animals and this channel, you can simply subscribe, like or comment on this or any video, and on my channel page there you'll find also some possibilities how you can send a little love and support. Thanks for that. So let's dive into the incubator issue. I bought this relatively cheap model. It's the EcoProfi C36 from Thermometer. And I would say first we talk about where to set up your incubator. Because for the last 2 days I was constantly running tests with it. And first I had it in my bathroom. Only at night when I started heating, the temperature in the incubator suddenly rose. That's when I realized there's a radiator next to it. That's why I moved now into my messy tool shop here. The only downside is the place that I can use for it is right next to the window. So in the afternoon, when the sun is blasting through it right on the incubator, I'm sure that will not help a stable temperature in there. When I finally get it running, I'll just use the box of the incubator itself to give it some shade. So this is about the positioning. Make sure it's at a place that has a more or less even temperature without other heat sources or direct sunlight close by. Now the tests that I was running. For that I'm using a Govee thermometer. It's Bluetooth, so I'm getting the numbers right on my cell phone, and they are supposed to be pretty accurate. If you want to make sure they are accurate, I made a video on how I calibrated that thing. It wasn't really necessary. Now on my first test, temperatures were pretty high, and suddenly there was a massive drop in temperature. What was happening is pretty simple. I only had a handful of rolls in here. The rolls started rolling and it dropped. That means the positioning of the thermometer is pretty important. Now that I was successful, I had it on the rolls, that's where the eggs will be, and in the middle of it. I first tested it in a corner. That gave me too high readings. The incubator itself has a ventilator, but somehow it did not distribute the hot air evenly. But right in the middle, it was quite okay. And I mean, that's the whole point. When you have a cheap incubator, they are most probably not putting in the highest quality sensors. This is the sensor. Yeah, it's okay positioned, I would say, but the readings there are just way different than the Govee, and I'm actually trusting more the Govee. That costed me, I think, around 40 euros, and the incubator itself was 60. So yeah, you see what better to trust. When the incubator is finally full with eggs, air and moisture distribution will be more even, because the eggs are taking away some space and even out the whole thing. That's what I hope for. By the way, the whole incubator can't keep the temperature without the styrofoam packaging that it was shipped in. But I've seen other places and they all have the styrofoam around it, so yeah, that's needed. So after a couple of days of testing, I figured out that I have to set the incubator itself way lower to reach the right temperature. You have to reach a temperature of 37.5 Celsius or 99.5 Fahrenheit. That's the best temperature for hatching chicken eggs. And I had it running all night and all morning, and I finally got the temperature right on the spot until another temperature drop happened. That's where my Bulgarian rural location comes into play. What happened was a neighbor from the big town came here to his weekend house, turned on his boiler. That moment, my voltage in the house dropped dramatically and the incubator just couldn't keep up the temperature. So this is another thing I have to deal with. I don't know how it is in other rural areas in other countries, but here it's pretty bad. Because I knew I might have some power problems, it's also one reason I chose this. I can hook up a battery. I will do that. So my solution for that was taking the UPS that I'm having for my computer, bringing it down here for the incubator, and hopefully this will work out. Next thing is the moisture. That's also a factor. A good value for the first weeks is around 50%. For the water supply, here are two filling areas. So if we follow the one, these are the two phases of hatching. So on the one, it's filling these two channels going all the way around. When it comes to the so-called lockdown, shortly before hatching, you start filling number two. That will fill up this one here. This will produce much more humidity in there, which is needed for hatching. In the description of the incubator, they said, fill these up until these holes here are covered. I did that, and the humidity in there just rose way over 60%. What can happen if it's too high? The whole eggs are getting too heavy, soaking up water, and the air bubble in the egg will shrink. So last night I finally got it to the perfect 50%, and I kept it running overnight. Only problem, in the next morning the humidity dropped to 19%. That's way too less. That means the skin in the egg might shrink, and in the end of the hatching period the skin will stick on the chick and it won't be able to get out of it. My solution that hopefully might help is I cut sponges into sizes so I can place them into these channels, and you have to make sure they are touching each other so they will transport the water all around. You've got a bigger surface and hopefully they will keep the moisture a bit longer in there. And of course make sure that the whole box is as even as possible. I had to put some paper behind it to bring it on a level that the water can spread evenly.
What I'm doing here, I'm pulling out the hair of my beard because on my head I don't have any to pull them off my head. Future me here, I'm already about 8 days in and I'm struggling. I'm really struggling with, don't know, the machine, the setup, with me reacting to it. I experienced different things about the Govee, about the humidity. I discovered a lot about this incubator, and probably most cheap incubators have some kind of these problems. So I would say the next video will get very interesting. Make sure not to miss that. I'll show you my very special water supply system. If you're really curious, with a channel membership, you'll get to see it as soon as I finish editing it, and everyone else will get it about a week later, but you'll get it.
What's important in general is you have to think ahead, because the day will come that this whole box will be full of chicks. Well, hopefully they have this thing in the ground. Of course, before hatching you take out the rollers and put the eggs on here. On here the chicks are supposed to hatch. But even when the holes are cute little eggs, I think a chick foot can fall into this and it might damage some chick feet, and we don't want that. So in this case, what I did, I cut out a piece of cardboard, good old pizza box was it again, and I taped on it some no-slip shelf liner. So it's rubbery, and hopefully the chicks will get a good grip on it. I stretched it really flat and even, not that they get caught in it with their little claws. Another thing you have to think about up front is, what will you do after the chicks hatched and you can take them out of the incubator? Many people have what they call a brooder. It's just a big enclosure where you put a heating lamp over it. Many people just have them inside. I won't do that because these things are usually open to the top and I have a young energetic cat running around. But what I will do, I'm having a cage in the chicken coop and I'll put them in there. Of course, you still need a heat source for them. I got me a heating plate where you can put legs in and set it up for them on the right height. They are supposed to be less of a fire hazard than heat lamps. And yeah, I like less of a fire hazard. But it'll take a while till this thing gets into action. I would say after my tests were more or less stable, it's about time to start it up. In every description and all people will tell you you have to preheat the incubator, that the eggs are getting right away on the right temperature. But in my opinion, there are 2 points speaking against it. First off, if you're setting this thing up and filling it carefully with all the eggs that you're having, in this one I'm supposed to get 36 in there, so you don't do that within half a minute. And of course you need to have the lid open. So until you're done with filling it up, all the hot air and moisture will be out and the machine has to start from scratch. The other thing is, if you're exposing your eggs on a too quick temperature difference, there's condense building up somewhere, don't know, outside, inside of the egg. Definitely it's not good. So I would say if you're putting them into a cold incubator and the incubator is rising the temperature slowly as it is doing, it usually takes about 2 hours for this model to heat up properly. I think that's a more careful way, so we'll do that. Now let's see what eggs I got. I chose 2 different sources that I can bring in a bit of a variety into my flock, and especially fresh blood, because I admit I'm not really a fan of the breed that I'm having now. I want to mix it up a bit and get more colorful, so to say. Now I have some freshly laid eggs from a hobby breeder in town. It was a gift, and one of those eggs is a green layer. Yeah, it's the first time I have one of those, and I really hope it will hatch and become a hen so that I will get some green eggs for me and my customers. If you want to find out if the green layer will hatch, subscribe, you'll find out. The other source I got eggs from was a farmer close by. Yeah, they look a bit different because his hens are laying out in the mud or however they are looking like. Now the question, is it wise to put a dirty egg like that in the incubator? Most people would probably say nope. I mean, it's dirt and it might also be some cow shit on it or whatever it is, bacteria and whatnot, but still, don't wash them. You will destroy the natural chemical layer that's on the eggs that's protecting the inside from bacteria. So what I'm doing now is the worst with the fingers, but it all already dried up pretty badly. So what you can do is take some sandpaper. I'm doing that the first time in my life, so try to get some dirt off. Again, only use that on the dirt, not on the eggshell itself. It works okay. I mean, I asked the farmer about it, and he gave me a typical Bulgarian answer. Няма problem. No problem. Just put them in there. It'll be okay. So yeah, I'll just get the worst crumbles off, I guess, and then they will go into the machine. So that's how you deal with dirty eggs. Okay, let's fill that thing up. The green one, of course, I wanted to have the best chances. I'll not put it right in the middle, and I won't put it right outside. Would that be a good spot for it? I hope. Okay, more eggs. Many people make markings on their eggs. Two reasons, I guess. One is that you can control that the eggs are actually turned. But for me, I would say the mentioned dropping of the thermometer was control enough. So yeah, the rollers are working. There will be some kind of movement in there. The other is if you have different breeds in there, so you know which ones are hatching and which ones not. I actually don't care. I just want chicks. All that's left is firing it up. Let's make a little series out of that. I'd say this is it for this one. In the next one, we will candle some eggs, having a look how they are developing, if they are developing. And I'll show you my setup in the coop that I will prepare for the chicks. And the last one will be the big hatching, hopefully. So again, if you don't want to miss that, subscribe, leave a like, and see you in the next one. Wish me luck.